Hi, I'm Ed Benecke. I don't know where Mark Bando. I don't know where Brandon first got my name and so forth.
From Mark Bando.
Was it from Mark? It's been getting around, believe me. I am from Maple Shade, lived in Maple Shade since 1923. We were old-timers there. And my dad and my mom had 7 boys, 1 girl. 7 boys entered World War II. 3 of us were parachutists. Now it's coming back. 3 of us were at Bastogne. 1 was hit at Bastogne and lost a lung. Was taken prisoner by the Germans that night, the first night that the 17th Airborne came up. Bill was hit, wounded, lost a lung, taken prisoner, 27 days. And I understand, I wasn't there, I understand that Moroccan troops come around behind and liberated the group that he was with. He's the one that should be here now talking. He served in Europe, World War II. Lost a lung, went in the hospital, came out of the hospital, Korea started, he gave up his 100% disability, went into Korea, fought in Korea. Came out of there, they found out that he had 100% disability. Now how they missed it the first time, I don't know. They found out he had 100% disability and they left him go again. So then he was, I don't know where, and he turned around and Vietnam started. Yes, he volunteered again. And he spent there, he got another Purple Heart.
Yeah. He is still alive.
He's living out
In Klamath Falls, Oregon. And he's still going.
You want to explain these? Is that the idea? This is the first time I've ever had one of these things on. I am not a speaker. There's the brothers. That's,
I'll get a better picture. There you
2 of them are not there. This is Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Top left is in Carentan, France. I served 4.5 years in the Army. There's no way that I'm going to be able to tell you and show you from my photographs and other things what took place in 4.5 years. You're not going to stay around that long.
I am 84 years of age.
And I consider myself one of the luckiest people on the face of this earth. When I went in the Army back in 1945, or 1941 until 45, I went into 155 GPS, big long-tom coast artillery guns in Camp Landing, Florida. Went on maneuvers on the Battle of the PD and all the rest of those things. And we were up in Shelby, Mississippi. When troops came around, they were going to solicit the Army's men for glider pilots. We had no knowledge of what was going on, didn't know what a glider was then. And they turned around and we went up, everybody in the units went before a recruiter. And one other fellow and I, Vernon Huggins and I, wanted to go into the paratroops. The guy looked at us, he said, "We don't want you." That was then. He said, "We're after glider pilot." So anyway, it went on, and I spent, from then on, I went to the 377th Parachute Field when the 82nd Infantry Division, not airborne, that's when the 82nd was in Claiborne, Louisiana. That was their home base. They split them down the middle, pushed them aside, said, "You're 82nd, you're 101st. And that's where it started. I never lost a day of service with a 101. Went through all the way into Austria, right on down to the bottom. We're getting ready to go on a ship to go to Pacific. Never got a scratch. That's why I say I consider myself one of the luckiest men. Why? We turned around, we went into New York, Camp Shanks, when we first started to go overseas. We got on a boat that was a German boat, taken over by the English, called the Kongsholm. The British renamed it Strathnaver. 3 days out in the convoy. We were the flagship of the convoy. 3 days out in the convoy, we developed some kind of boiler trouble. We sat in the sea for 3 days until they finally got something going again, and they got it back up into St. John's, Newfoundland. We spent 30 days up there. How long did it take Columbus to cross the ocean? We were on that ship and on the land there in Nova Scotia, in Halifax, St. John's, for 43 days. We got an American Theater Medal out of it. And we were so tight on that ship that we were sleeping out on the open decks. They just piled us on. They had no end to it. So we turned around, we finally got over there. And we turned around and went on with our training. We went into Normandy on the 6th of June. This picture, I would not be afraid to claim it as the first photograph taken on French soil when the war started. When I left that plane, I was a jump master, staff sergeant, worked out. When I left that plane, I was late getting out because number 6 blister load under the plane wouldn't eject with a button. So I was a little bit late getting out the doorway. And you
Can't be late, leaving that plane to stay with your crew.
But when I touched ground, I picked up 2 other fellows from my unit. Now, they were from another plane. Not Vernon Huggins, he was back. Bill Hunter, Arbogast, and Humphreys. They were all from a machine gun crew. And we wandered around for a while. Come in the Germans, we came into America, other troops, they wanted us to stay with them or whatever. I said, we're artillery, you're infantry, we have a job to do, we're trying to get it done. But we were dropped 9 miles from where we were supposed to be dropped. My first sergeant was dropped 25 miles from where he was supposed to be. I have no ill feelings against the Air Corps. I didn't have any back there. I know what they went through. When we hit that coast of France from the bottom coming up, headed back toward England, that stuff was so thick you could walk on it. They could have paved it right then and there. And they were knocking planes out right and left. And the reason that they were so far apart, we were 9 miles away and the others were 12 or 25 miles away from where, they started taking evasive action. Fog set in, a mist or something set in, clouds, and the pilots started spreading out a little bit so their wings wouldn't collide with one another. So we were dropped 9 miles away. When I touched ground, I come up with these other 3 fellas. Now I said 2, but there was 3 fellas, and we were going for a while, and I turn around and look, and I only see 2. So I called Corporal Hunter. I said, where did Humphreys go? He went back to see if he could find his rifle. So we wandered around all night, 3 o'clock in the morning, heard talking. We identified these people, French people, in a ditch against the hedgerow. We identified them and left them, wandering around until it got daybreak. You can just see it here where the light is coming in, where it was starting to get light. And we got back into that same area with the same people. That is when I took a picture. No flash, just a regular picture. Can you imagine what would have happened with a flash camera popping around the field? I was not a photographer. I was just a picture taker. How many remember the Mara Cat? Off of Asbury Park, right? I've got 2 pictures of that taken with a box camera. My brother, 2 years older than I, wanted to go up and see the boat that had burned. It was just up there, just about on the beach. Sand was filled in behind it. And that's what got me started with photographs. You'll very seldom see me anywhere without a camera. What are you going to do with that? Wait and see. But this picture is my pride and joy. I don't care who says what. It's in Mark Brando's book, and it's in a couple of other books. 1998, Mark Brando got a group together of 4 people, myself included, to go back. He's got 4 books out now. He's been back 5 or 6 or 7 times. He goes back, he's got contacts all over that continent. Holland, France, Germany, all over. He goes back constantly to write another book. So he called me at the beginning of '98 and said, Ed, you got to go back with me. I said, I'm not going. So he finally said, no, all right. He got another man to go, another vet. Twice he did that. And I said, no, I'm not going. So the 3rd time was in May. And my son and my wife says, you're going. I said, okay, I'll go. So I told Mark I'll go. So that's when he got the group, and he made contact with these people over there. I met these people in 1998. 2 of them. This girl, she was 15 years old then. And do you know, when I was getting ready to go back there, I was still picturing that girl as a 15-year-old girl. I never thought of them growing up. And this was her cousin alongside of her. The woman here, you can see her face. I did not know that when we were there, and I took this picture, that she had been hit by a bomb fragment. And they didn't get to where they were going to go. They were leaving their home, Ravenelville, a little crossroad village. They were leaving their houses to go to a air raid shelter they had built out in the middle of an orchard. They were about halfway there, and rather than leave her, they all stayed with her against the hedgerow. Yeah. He said, Mark Brando sent the small picture that I had of this to the mayor of St. Mary of Greece. And they put it in 3 newspapers, because I've got, that's the letter from the mayor, I've got 3 copies of the pieces they took out of the newspaper. And they located the one girl and her cousin. They were the only ones that survived that far back. And I did not know that Mark was doing this until we got over there. We got off the plane, we got in the car that he had all set up for a rental, and we went right out to Ravenelville to where that woman lived. That was them when I saw them. This is as I remembered them. And we had a ball. We were there for a couple of hours, and I finally said to the interpreter, do you think that they could go back out to where we took that picture? We were within a couple of 100 feet of the spot this picture was taken at. The letters I got from that family in remembrance, terrific. They said they remembered, the girl and the boy said they remembered the pictures being taken. And I never in this world thought that I would ever get back there and see them after they grew up. We spent the whole first day in and around their area. And it was wonderful. From there on, we went on all over creation. Mark took us back up to Holland. I did the same thing up there. There were a little girl and her brother. He is now not a teacher, he's a professor at Utrecht, Holland. And Mark Bando arranged for them to meet. That's where we met, at her house, their home, up in Holland. And she's, God bless her, she's still around. It's unbelievable what that Mark Bando has done and is doing. Remember his name, and if you see one of his books, read them. But he is terrific. He had them all set up again to go over there. We went up on the dikes, traveling around. But as I said, there's no way in the world I'm going to be able to tell you all what took place. But anyway, we went into the service. Three of us were parachutists. One was Air Corps. He went over to China, Burma, India area. My oldest brother, Herbert, was blind in one eye back in latter part of 1941. They took him into the service in 1941. They made an MP out of him, and he escorted prisoners of war from the East Coast out to the Midwest and around. Any Marines around? Yeah, that was the one on the top left. That's Herbert. That's me in the middle. Elmer, he's 2 years younger than I. Then the one down on the left, Bill, he's the three parachutists there. He's 4 years younger than I. Fred was the one that went into the Air Corps, went to China, Burma, India. Any Marines? I love you anyway. My brother Harry, he's not on there. He was the baby of a family, the boy, baby boy. Our sister came last. And Harry was so little, they wouldn't let him in school until he was 9 years old. Do you know where he went? Into the Marines. He had a heart murmur, and they wouldn't let him into any of the other branches. Now, how they let him go into the Marines with that heart murmur, maybe, I don't know, does a heart murmur stop? Does it quiet down or what? But anyway, he went over to China, Burma, India area in the Marines. And anytime I come across the Marine, I really lay it to them now. But it's fun. And we turn around, and from Normandy, we went up to Holland. On this, they told us, we were shock troops. They said, give us 72 hours of your utmost duty, and we'll have you out of there. 35 days later, in France, they finally pulled us out. We were out, that was on June the 4th, June the 6th. August, there was a proposed flight to go into Felice. Anybody remember the Felice Gap? F-A-L-I? We were supposed to drop in there to break up a concentration, and Patton, God bless him, he spurred up and he broke the connection there so that we didn't have to drop in. Then we turned around, we were up in camp again. We were getting ready for another one up in Holland. That was in September 17th, 18th, 19th. I was parachute artillery in Airborne. You broke the howitzers down. There's pictures of the howitzers around here somewhere. They broke them down into pieces, put them underneath the plane, 6 loads under the plane, and we had 7 loads in the door of every C-47 plane that we jumped out of. And we pushed the 7 loads out the doorway, then we followed down, pushing the ones off the bottom. I've been under the impression
question?
up until just about a month ago, that the 101st Airborne had, I know they had, in the 377th, we had 12 75 millimeter howitzers, A battery, B battery, and C battery. Of those 12 guns, there was one, to my knowledge, assembled in France. Those planes are going at the least 90 miles an hour when you go out of them. Just picture how that stuff is going to be spread out. And we're in swamps. 3 of our planes went into the Atlantic Ocean headed back for England. They didn't get the light in time to get out. So we lost 3 crews there. But on the other deal, we had to find 11 blister loads and parachute loads out of the doorway to service one howitzer, to put the pieces together and make it work. Not with, that was the wheels they put on them after we trained. They were pneumatic tires. But you had to take them apart. There was no problem, no nuts, no bolts, no wrenches. Take those guns apart and put them together again. On the top of the tube is anyway, there's a piece up there on the top of that tube. Right up on the very top, and then the tube is under it, and then there's a cradle underneath of it, and then there's a bottom sleigh. And you had to find all of that stuff, plus the trails came in 2 pieces back here, the axles and the wheels, the breech block, that was the heaviest piece in the thing. And we had to find all of those to make that guns work. There was one in Charlie battery, not A battery, Charlie battery. I don't know whether it was one gun or whether it was pieces of all the guns that they found, but I stand corrected somewhere along the line. I understand, I don't know whether I got it from television or from another book. There were 5, but 4 of them were so far away from where they were supposed to be that they were deserted. I don't know if they were ever assembled, but the pieces were deserted. There was one gun that fired in World War II in France, to my knowledge, and I was on that gun. When we were scattered around, they tried to get the fellows together, and anybody from any battery that was an artilleryman, they congregated in one area. And we wore out, we had 2 French 75s, and the 170, or the 75 that we dropped and located, we just wore them out. They wouldn't fire anymore. We had brass behind us from the shell casings, and I don't know if, I know I don't. I've got 2 metals that was melted down from shell casings and remolded into 2 metals.
They're about that big.
They were like a small dish commemorating Bastogne. I've got 2 of them at home. There's no way that I could bring everything. So after Normandy, 35 days, 72 hours, they turned around and they dropped us into Holland, but we went in by glider. They proved to themselves that they couldn't find the people. This was midnight, too. This is when we went out. You couldn't find those pieces
Together, to put
together.
at night to be serviceable.
That is my glider. 5 minutes after we touched down in Holland, anybody know what peat is? Peat, it's used for heat. Well, that's what we were in, a peat field, peat bog, as they called it. And on the right side, that box there, this box is one of the seats. There were 2 seats left in the gliders for the artillerymen. There were 7 of us, plus the howitzer, plus the ammunition and the other equipment in each glider. Now, the rest of our men, there's 11 men and a gun crew. The rest of the men were coming in other gliders. That is a seat, we raised that up to get the nose of the glider down. The nose of the glider, can't see it on there, but the nose of the glider went up in the air. And the front of the glider had to come down where you could pull the guns out. So we pulled the gun out and pulled the other equipment out, and the field's on fire. So I'm looking for somewhere, there's no way that the 7 of us, the glider pilot and co-pilot, they took off. They had their instructions, get out of there and get where they were supposed to be. So we turn around, and I'm looking around for some way to get that gun out of that peat field. It's soft, heavy. So I seen up on a little dike where there was a roadway, and the Jeeps were going back and forth. So I went out and I commandeered a Jeep. The guy says, I got a job to do. I pulled a .45 pistol. I said, I know you have. You're going to get that gun out of there before it goes up in smoke. I said, either you do or I do. I was not a hard man, believe me, but I was a staff sergeant and I had a responsibility, and I took that responsibility just as well as I could. We got that Jeep out of there, or that gun out of there, up on a trail, and took it up to the patch of woods about 3/4 of a mile away where they were assembling. And from then on, for quite a way, well, maybe a week or more, we were used as infantry. It was so heavy that they couldn't do things as they had planned, but we got the gun out of there and got the other stuff out of there. And that, again, was another month, 35, 37 days. They said, give us 72 hours and we'll have you out of there. Then we turn around, and after 17th of September, we turn around, and it worked out that Bastogne in December 17th. It dawned on me a short while ago. Everything took place about the 17th of the month. It was except for Normandy. The others were all the 17th, 18th, and 19th. Hitler started on the 16th of December when he started pushing through, come down through, and we were in there to Bastogne on the 19th. We rode in the big tractor trailer trucks with no covers on the top, with lights on from Marmelin back in the middle of France, with blazing lights to get up to Bastogne. But before that, you didn't even have your little bitty peep lights. But they had to get up there, and they put their full lights on, blazing lights, nose to tail, and we went all the way through until just outside of Bastogne. We stopped outside of Bastogne that night. I don't know what time it was. It was dark, blistery cold. And when daylight came, the commander of the troops there took, our commander was not there. He was back in the States preparing for another deal. So General McCullough, that was General Taylor, he was back in the States. General McCullough, the artillery commander, took over. And he took his officers, and he took, the officers took the staff sergeants and so forth, their commanders, and they took us up to Bastogne. Snow was not on the ground yet. There was little patches of it on the backside of a hill that the sun didn't melt. He took our commander took us up to the hill where he wanted us to be, and he showed us where he wanted us to put the guns in position. This I got in 98. They took a picture for the forward observers, and he was in a barn, and he left all of this stuff, and some Frenchman got it. And when I got back there with Mark Bando, they made copies. That's not a good one. This is Bastogne back here. That picture was taken on the 27th of December, 1944. This is the same picture, but this is a little bit different than that because on here I can pick out my gun position. Here.
Just turn it. Head, turn it this way. Your head.
Pardon?
This way. Savvy.
All right, where we go here? Stand on my head. Now, if that is that way, savvy. All right. Then these are the guns. See these black marks here? That is the powder from the guns firing out through the muzzle. That's what this is. Any with the lines out from them were either bombs or shell casings, or gunpowder. But my gun was the first one, and then we had 6 guns up in here, and this was our kitchen area. You'll see pictures of them around here, where I understand, I found out later, that I thought it was a bomb crater from World War I. I questioned a family over there, and they said no, that it was a mine. What kind of mine, I don't know. But this is where our kitchen was in place, and it's down there, where we're cooking and all that other stuff. But, turn it sideways. Stand on your head. But it was fun. I told Brandon when we were coming over, I wouldn't take $1 million, which isn't anything anymore, to go through what we went through, but I wouldn't take $100 million, go back and do it again, knowing what took place. But after Bastogne, they turned around and we came out of there, and they sent us down through Alsace-Lorraine and down through, we went down to Unken, Austria, and we were down in that lower German France area, and yeah, that's the kitchen. And those trees were just about level with the top of the ground outside. Just enough to give concealment. And they were our cooks. We had all the meat we wanted. Cows laying all over the place, pigs laying all over the place. Anything that was knocked out or down, you could use. But don't shoot one, because you had it. But after that, we went down into Unken, Austria, and we were down, and that's a beautiful country. God must have just grabbed a hold of that and pulled it up like this, and just had those things, ripples and all around, the lakes. I'd like to know what the story was. We were down in Unken, Austria, the 377th, and somebody came to me. I was a staff sergeant down there yet, and somebody came to me and says, Ed, there's a family here who wants to talk to you. I couldn't speak German. So they brought this man, a woman, and a teenager over, and we were talking, and they said that there was German troops concentrated on the top of that mountain. They said, you ought to go up and get them. Sure. The war is just about over, and we're going to go stir up trouble. So we turned around, and some of the others, I don't know how, but anyway, we went up.
Heidi Bardsley, you have a call
And
981.
to get up there, they had no types of vehicles like we did with the Jeep. And they told us where the path started, up, and everything was walking then. And we get up near where the beautiful big farmhouse, you don't have it. That's in Unken, Austria. That was the troops remaining. There's a beautiful home type thing up there. Today it would be a mountain lodge for skiers. And they turned around and they were up in there, which we found out. We turned around, we went up that mountainside, and they could have wiped us out, and they wouldn't even known that we had been there. There was only 2 jeeps of us, so what can you get? 5, 10 people? 9, 10? And we go on up there, and I don't know, we got talking to some of the subordinates. The big shots wouldn't come out of the places, the houses. They said, we don't surrender to the likes of you people. Not those words. They said they don't surrender to anything but an equal officer. So I said to Charlie Eckert, I says, take a jeep down and tell Lieutenant Fuchs and ask him what he wants to do. Either he comes up or we come down. I don't care. So he turned around and he did come up. And then they come out of their lodgings there. And I don't know how many they had. They even had their own band army girls were like our wax as secretaries and all that. They were up. It was a huge colony, and it was beautiful, and it was up. So we turn around and we come down after that. When? it's 10 minutes before. Anyway, we turn around and come out of there, out of Unken, Austria, on the mountaintop, and we went down through Hagenau, Germany, and some of those other places over on the river, and we finally wound up down in Marseille, France. They had decided that trouble was over up there, so they want to take us and ship us over to China, over the Pacific. So they took us down, and we were in the marshalling area down there, and somewhere along the line, there was another ship coming over. I think it was the Wakefield, and it had the 11th Airborne on it, part of it. And they were going to pull into Marseille, where we were at the time, and then they were going to unload them, and load us on there, and then send us out. Somewhere along the line, some smart aleck, and I thank him, he said, wait a minute, you're going to bring that vessel in, take that airborne group off, take this group and put them on, and then send them down? It's going to take 2 weeks or more. What are you going to do in the meantime? So they turn around and they says, okay, they sent the 11th Airborne right on through the Mediterranean over the Suez Canal now. So we got away from that one. And it was right after that that we come back up through, and we were at Auxerre, France, and I came home on high points. I think my 95 was not high, but it was the higher group. Some of them had 100 and some points, but I had 95, and it brought me home. But there's more things. Question?
Yeah, the picture that was just on there showed Eckert holding a pair of shoes with wooden soles. Were they our people or German ship?
They were French people.
French?
When we first went in. It was pitiful. Charlie Eckert, he lived right here in off the Coney-Palmyra Bridge in Philadelphia. He moved down to Pleasantville, New Jersey, and he died down there. Whether his wife's still around or not, I don't know. But they were shoes. You can see where they made these wooden soles and tied them on, tacked them on to any kind of leather shaping there that they could use as shoes.
In that picture, Charlie has a Nazi belt,
Yes?
buckle,
Yes.
and the straps for holding. Was there any
Yes.
penalty if the Germans caught you with their equipment?
I don't think they had the nerve or would have tried anything. Have any of you heard the devils in the baggy pants?
We had jumpsuits, as they called them, that had big
Pockets. And they carried everything in that. And they wouldn't surrender to those devils in the baggy pants because they were told that they wouldn't take prisoners. They would shoot you on sight, and they just didn't. Now, I'm not saying that the American soldier didn't do a lot of unauthorized killing. You're back in 5, 10 miles from any American outpost. You're 2, 3, 4, 5, 15 people. You take 100 prisoners. What are you going to do with them? You didn't get close enough that where you had to justify either shooting them or taking them. When you saw them, it's a hard thing to say and it's a hard thing to imagine. But don't ever say, I tell the children this, don't ever say what you can or cannot do or will not do until you're in that position. You don't know. We didn't know. And we were there to wipe them out. This is a German swastika. We, the 101st Airborne, were the Screaming Eagles. We were down in southern France, headed for some of the country down there, and the war was getting toward an end. And the upstairs boy says, hey, the 101st, let them go to the Eagle's Nest, Hitler's hideout. And the 101st was down there, and I was with them, and somebody came to Lieutenant Jack Price, says, take 2 jeeps, 9 men beside yourself, and we don't care how you get there, be first at Berchtesgaden. We come across the Autobahns, we came across where the bridges were out, and we were going. I've got pictures, I don't know if you've got any here or not. German troops lining the sides of the roads. They all have their rifles, they all have their guns, they have their tanks, and we're just scooting by, heading for Hitler's hideout. We got there on May 5th. The war ended May what? May 8th. And we're going all through this southern Germany to get to the hideout. We got into Berchtesgaden, the town of Berchtesgaden, but I never got up into the hideout because the 502 parachute infantry weren't too far behind us coming on in. And they took the hideout, and we took the town. But I've got pictures all over the place. Now, on that trip down through there, at Unken, Austria, I had a cousin, Herbert Benecke, not my brother, cousin Herb. He was a tank commander. And we're going down, helter-skelter, down the highways, and I'm looking at these names and numbers on the tanks. And I said, that's my cousin's unit. So I stood up in a Jeep and I hollered at the fellows that were around as we passed each one. I just tell Captain Herbert Benecke that his nephew Ed just went through. 2 days later, who pulls down the road in an American Jeep but my cousin? He knew where the 101st was going. He had information, so he found out where we were. He came down into Unken, Austria, and visited us down there. And when he came up, he was going to eat. It was about supper time, and he was going to eat with the troops. And Captain Culpepper and the other lieutenant says, oh, no, you're going to eat in the mess hall with us. Told him, my cousin, Captain. And Herb said, no, I'll eat with Ed. So the captain says, you're eating with us. So they drugged me with them. There's so many things. It's wonderful now. It's over with.
So how did you get the flag?
On the way into the hideout, we went through a place called Kempten, Germany. And it was a ski troop barracks. 3-story building, ski troop barracks. On the 3rd floor was this banner strung up on a wall. And we broke off that night. We camped out at Kempten, and we just went wandering around. And I turned around, and when I saw that, I said, that's mine. There's a story on this. How many know where the South Jersey Regional Airfield is out near Medford? There's a little airfield out there, South Jersey Regional. Been out there now with half of this stuff.
This will be the fifth.
Year. They
Won't let us go.
and have an air show on the
7th, on the 19th and 20th.
I believe this year.
And they got wind of it somewhere, I don't know. The
American Legion.
posted it,
And we had this banner
up on the wall.
It was
One of the airfield hangars. And it was a young man, there was,
four of us over there,
and we're
strung along. We had three of these big long tables with all this junk here. And I'm up on this end, and I see this young man back here. He comes up and he speaks to the other two fellas, and they said that that banner was mine. So I saw him wander around, come back over on the other end, and there's people all over the place. So he walks up
and he didn't come up to
the table where I was, but he stood back maybe 15, 20 feet.
and I'm looking at him, can I help you? Can I,
To answer a question for you?
and he looked at me,
And he says, yeah. He pointed to that on the wall. He says, how can you fly that? He floored me. I'm wondering what's going on. So I thought for a few seconds, maybe a minute, I don't know. And I thought, I said to him, do you realize that if our soldiers hadn't gone over there and kicked the living hell out of Hitler, you would be serving under that flag? It came on me just like that. And I said those words. He looked at me, never said another word, turned around and walked out. That place was as silent as a morgue. I don't know where the answer came from, but that was it. I'm proud to be able to show that thing because Hitler's got no parts of it. Hitler and none of the rest of them. That's the biggest one I've seen. That's 9 by 15.
How were you able to get it home?
Huh?
How were you able to get it home?
I don't know. Everybody says, how'd you get that? I didn't try to send any explosives, any rifles, or any pistols, or anything like that. But just about anything else went home. It went through.
German.
This is something else. This is A Battery, 377th Parachute Field Artillery Battalion Guidon, original Guidon. I've got this from a young man out in Michigan. I got his name and address, and I got letters. It was after the service. And this fella
Heidi, please come to circulation.
got a call from a friend of his down the street. Come on down, he said, I got something for you. The fellow up the street knew that this guy was in the A Battery 377. So he went out, I can't think of his, don't come to me now, but he's dead and his wife is in Florida. Turned around and he went over to the guy's house. Yeah, that's Unken, Austria.
Banner in the middle.
Who's got it? Yeah, okay, right in the middle. Right in the middle. And the fellow said to the A Battery man, he says, we had a field inspection today. He said, we had a second lieutenant in the supply house, supply tent, that says, get rid of it. And the guy says, I know who that goes to. So I don't know how he got it out. He confiscated it anyway, and he brought it home. If that name comes to me, I'll let you know. But the guy out in Michigan, when the fellow presented it to him, I got his letter explaining it. I don't have it here. It may be in one of those books. And he says, I know who that goes to, and I've got the letter. He said, it goes to an A Battery man. Never knew the feelings that are out there. They called me one round Benecke. I was a staff sergeant. I had a gun crew. I was first section. Usually, first section was the one that zeroed in on the targets. and that's where the name came from. One round, and we were due. We were in on it. Never realized what goes on. I've been offered $500 for this by Mark Bando. Where's the other one? You never spoke, you never said a word. This was your identification. Now, this is not the original. This is twice the size of the ones we had, and they were a brown color. But this was your identification, no matter where you were. If you heard something and you wanted to identify it or you, and you waited. If you got that, that was supposed to be friendly. Supposed to be. Don't you think the Germans were smart enough to realize? And pretty soon you didn't answer these things because they would click them and wait, and you give an answer, and then they would come on in, and that was the end of them. So these were one of the first things we threw away. The second thing, I don't know how any of you know, was a luminous necklace about the size, thickness of a pencil. And it went around your neck, and you were supposed to wear it. Luminous necklace, out there in nowhere. That was one of the first things, and those two things were the first things that you discarded. The third thing, I guess, was a gas mask. But this was it. I'm looking for another gadget. Mashed up. This is the original U.S. parachute knife that was issued to me. It's got a switchblade. This was the Army knife, U.S. Army knife. The Germans had a much larger one than this. This we wore in the pocket of our jumpsuit here at the neck. Up on this lapel, there was a little pocket up there. And this fit in that pocket. Why do you think they put it up there? It was to cut the chute, all right, but they felt that if you had it in your pants or in your shoes or anywhere else, you may not be able to get to it. So here was the first place they thought of, and that's where they had it. And it was used, believe me. How many have seen the pictures of Normandy with Big John Wayne when his troops moved in, and he says, get them men out of the trees, the parachutist?
Yeah.
This was your escape when you're tied up in a tree or anything else. St. Mary Glees mean anything to you? That's where a parachutist hung over the church steeple. John Steele was that trooper's name. He was 82nd Airborne. And that chute, not the same chute, but a chute and a dummy are to this day hanging up on that steeple. But it's hanging on the wrong side of the church. It's hanging on the front at the parking lot. He landed on the other side. But to the visitors and all over there, it's too awkward, and they turn around and they bring it out on the front. There's so many little bitty things that they twist around to make it more presentable. But that's why it always is. I don't care where you go anyway.
Why didn't they use the knife?
Because there were Germans all over the place. It was a German, that church was a German St. Mary's.
And to get down through there, I don't know how he took it
Down.
but
The Germans got him. While he was up there, he was seen. Somebody saw him and took a shot. Now, whether it was one shot, two shots, machine gun shot, or what, I don't know. But he took one shot through one of his feet, through his shoes and right out. And he still hung there, but they did turn around and release him. I'm going to... Yeah, here, cut. This is Charlie Eckert on this side. I'm trying to think of the name of the street he lived on out here, and I can't. And Pappy Fry, Arlen Fry, you couldn't have given him a commission or a promotion. He's a hillbilly from West Virginia, West by God, Virginia. Any West Virginians around? When you mention West Virginia, you better put by God in there, or you're in for a fight. But that was Charlie and Pappy Fry. That man, if you ever wanted a mechanic, or if somebody had something that said that they couldn't be done, or it couldn't be fixed, call for Pappy Fry. That guy was just good. In front of that machine gun, that was at Katz, C-A-T-Z, just outside of Carrington. And that machine gun was a German machine gun, and Pappy Fry started playing around with it, taking it apart and so forth. I'm standing out in front of it, never realizing that that thing has got a shell in the chamber, ready to go. It didn't happen, you know I'm here. But that man, I just don't understand some of the men, little bitty guys, doing the things that took place in the paratroops. The parachutists back in 1941, 40 and 41 when they first started that stuff, they were the forerunners of all your special forces today. Your Rangers and your other troops. But I don't know how they are doing it. Point du Hoc, out on the French coast, there's pictures in there of those cliffs where they came right up and then up to the boats coming in. The size of some of those machine gun places up there. The armor is thicker than these rooms. There's pictures. I don't know if you got any or not, but they're in there. And those troops came up to those coastlines, hit the beaches, and had to climb those rock walls to get up there. There's big cannons, there's machine guns, and they're all interlaced. There isn't a spot out there. You can, anybody here been over on the French coast after the war? You can go miles underground in through those pillboxes and tunnels without ever showing your head. We were at Carrington, before Carrington, right at the Normandy. It was right behind one of the beaches there. And Pappy Fry and Sergeant Rogers and I, we went up to see what the defense on the coast was. We got up there and there's this big wide open door, as big as this wall. We went inside the first wall. And from then on, you know what an Army flashlight was? The vent with a piece on the top? We all had them, especially on the artillery because we had to use them at night. And we would turn around, we went inside, and it started getting darker in there. It was light outside. Or back you went through each room or whatever, it got darker. And we're back in, I don't know how far, and we heard noises. So this is during Normandy fight. So we're standing around wondering what's going on, and we listen, and it's always that constant noise. Nothing different, nothing clanking, well, we figured that it was nobody walking or nobody doing anything of that sort. So we took our lights, and it got so dark in there, the only place that light, flashlight, would cast any light was if you were to go up on a wall. In a room this size, you could stand right here and flash that light on, and you would see nothing. There was nothing there for the light to reflect from. So to get around, we went over around the walls, and we then centered in on this noise, and then we branched over and walked with our lights
Four of us, until we saw
a
sort of a big table or a desk.
I'm going to tell you, there was a German soldier laying up on that table. I don't know if it was an operating room or a hospital or what. And that sucking noise was maggots eating that body apart.
You don't realize, you don't know.
Oh. Now, you know something that a lot of others out there, thousands of others, don't know.
The condition
Condition
and so forth.
that you boys went through. We went through. I'll never forget it as long as I live. So we turned around and we got out of there. We went looking for something else. But that, no matter where you went, I was one of those guys.
I don't think I was a bad
Boy, I just wasn't good.
but it was fun. We were always daredevils, trying to do something.
Something that somebody else said couldn't be done. My dad used to put cables up in trees that were 30 and 40 feet high, out over
a hollow or out over
with the water, a cable, and put a bar or something on it, and that's what we played on. There's a fella in Florida right now, he was in Maple Shade, Phil Jacoby. There was one tree, the first limb was about 30 feet up, and Dad had a rope on there, a big, thick rope, and I shinnied up that one day. I don't know how old I was, in the middle school, and Phil wanted to come up. I, well, come on. I'm laying on a big limb up top. Come on.
So he gets up there and I'm reaching
Down to try and give him a hand to get up the last few feet, and I can't reach him, and he went down. He held the rope, and it just, where that rope was in his pocket, it just burnt the flesh and skin right off his
hand.
That's a brag. That's another dumb trick. The troopers were always showing off. We were told, any armored men, tankers, we were told when we come out of jump school that we were as good as any 10 tankers, tank men. Anybody know Fayetteville, North Carolina? They used to go in there and try to prove it. Fayetteville and Fort Benning, Georgia, was tanker country. That was the armored outfits.
When they were called in,
When the police or anybody, the MPs were called in to a disturbance, the first thing they did was call the fire department. They would hook the hoses up out front of where the disturbance was.
and they
They walked into that building with that fire hose going, washing them right out the back door. But not me. I never had a fight in the service. I got
close to one. That was it. I mean, a fist fight among
there was one time we were in Fort Bragg, and Charlie Battery was putting on a demonstration for
some big shot, I don't know. Taking some kind of a test.
and we had gone through it, and they
They were in line, but they had some.
men missing. So
So I
volunteered to go over and be an assistant, and there were several others of our group, and we were in a chow line. And I was called out, I was up toward the front, and I was called out of the
chow line,
to go answer to some officer.
and we turned around and we went
Back, and I
came in over to my spot where I was.
I was bucking the line as far as somebody back there was concerned. And they started.
Somebody
Told me that I shouldn't be doing that. That's where I left when I was called out.
so that young
Man, I don't know what he was, whether he was a PFC or a corporal or I don't know what he was. But he was going to take me on and beat me up. Never had a fight in the service. So I said, well, there's nothing I can do. If you want to come out here, let's go at it, get it over with. I'm hungry. So he turned around and he would not come out. He says, you sergeant. I said, what's that got to do with it? I said, I can take the shirt off. Because you probably got him stitched on your shirt or on your skin, off your shirt. So there was no fight. But that was the closest I ever came to any kind of a fight with our own people in the service. Getting time to go home?
Yeah. I'll leave you with this. With the book.
In the book, The Band of Brothers,
Yes.
In France, there was a fight to take out some artillery posts. Were you involved with that? They were shooting down the beach.
Come again?
In the book, The Band of Brothers,
Yes.
it spells out a campaign to take out some artillery pieces that were firing on the beach.
That was all on the coast. I was not in that. The artillery on the infantry of the parachute troops. I didn't bring one. You know what a cork is? You put in the top of a bottle to stop anything from coming out. That's what we were. We were corks. They dropped us back in, behind the lines, behind the beaches, to stop the German enforcements coming in to knock those off the beach. There were 4 causeways. You've been down to Wildwood, you've been down to Cape Mary, you've been down to the other beaches where you go out over the water, over a bridge. Well, we were on the other end of that bridge to stop the German troops from coming through. That's what the parachutists was done with in Normandy, and from then on, that's what they were for. You were a cork to stop them from coming through.
What occupation have you had since the Second
What?
World War?
Occupation, I worked, anybody know I am?
Hollingshead Corporation in Camden? No. They made pans.
So I was a can cutter. Cut them by the millions. Gallons, 4-ounce, quarts, pints. And I was in there for 4 months in Hollingshead before I went in the service. I was in the service for 4.5 years. When I came back, I went back to Hollingshead. They gave me that 4 months and the other 4.5 years seniority, and I went back there and I spent 29 years there. Then I left there to go into real estate, full-time. My wife said no. I said yeah. So I went into real estate. And I was in there for 20-odd years. And I turned around, and when I left there, I was only out a short time, and a fellow, Don Young, I've known him since we were in Vacation Bible School. His church. And we turned around, and I was in there with him, and he had a cousin over in Scotland. And he gave me their address, and I visited him over there. And he was working at a bank. He was on retirement, and he was working at a bank in Haddonfield, New Jersey. And we were sitting around talking one day, and he said, "You want to go down and see the boss?" I said, "Hey, I've been retired. I want to go back to work." I did. And I turned around and spent another 5 years with the bank. I worked until after I was 70, but that was all right. I enjoyed what I did. With that bank, I was there, and they started a program of employee of the month, and employee of the quarter, and employee of the year. I'm a brand new man, a brand new person. There have been people there 12, 15 years, secretaries and other stuff. And when they started that program, I got the first ever employee of the month. I got the first ever. Then it went through to the year. I got the first ever employee of the year. They sent my wife and I to Bermuda for a week and gave us $500 of spending money. So it paid off. But I'm not afraid of work. not afraid of work. I'll do what I have to, and I'm willing to help anybody. If I see somebody needs help around, that's why I got in the troops too. It was the same way. I made staff sergeant, and I was put in for a battlefield promotion down in Unken, Austria, toward the end of the war. When I got my points, I said, no way, I'm going home. I didn't bring anything in here with me, and I'm leaving. And that's the way it was. I got the papers home for the battlefield commission. I never turned them back in there. What?
Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Benecke?
I got another 10 years, I hope. They are in the bathrooms when you're out in the field.
Any questions? Thank you for coming.
That was in South Carolina. I've got another, I don't think you have it, maybe you do. Sergeant Bloor, our first sergeant after Normandy. I caught him at Bastogne.
I didn't want to take that.
That's all right. There's nothing wrong with it. It's the same as something like this. He's on the backside of a hill doing his business. There was no outhouses, there was no garages, no service stations or anything. And he and Sergeant Brummett, Staff Sergeant Brummett, Bloor had to go, and I am with a camera, and I got a picture of him. I had that book, one of these, it's in one of these books. I took that down to, Little Rock, Arkansas, where my son lives. And it was a class of Sunday school children. I don't know, maybe 8, 9, 10 years old. And one of the teachers wanted to know about one of the photo books. So I took the book over to him. Never thinking, and first thing you know, 8, 10 kids sitting around that book, laughing their heads off. The teacher went over to investigate. And there's Sergeant Bloor. No private parts can be seen, just the bare leg from here down. And I'll never forget those kids. And then we had a discussion on it. I'll say, if you're out there, where are you going to go when nature calls? A helmet. Where is that thing?
Thank you for coming.
Can I have one more minute? This is what? No! It's a crock pot. It's a bathtub. Anything that you needed, this was it.